Before we get into the assignment, I want to talk a little bit about command line user interface. That's what UI stands for. And user interface is not what we typically think of when we talk about user interface, right? When we talk about user interface, we usually talk about buttons and sliders, and we're very used to those constructs, whether it's on our phone or whether it's, we're used to swiping and pinching and twisting, and there's all kinds of different ways to interact with our stuff now. You can shake your phone to undo something. And those are all part of your phone's user interface now that Apple has decided that that's what we do. And if you don't think Apple decided that stuff, read the history. Android is just keeping up. And they do a good job of keeping up. And sometimes their hardware is superior. But for the most part, our experience of using things is defined by that. Most of us aren't really used to dealing with a command line. But that's what we're going to be doing for a lot of this class. And so what I want to do is talk about some things that we can do to make a more pleasant, usable experience for our users. Something like this, where we are printing some kind of an introduction to our software. This presents, it tells them what we're doing, it gives them some instructions, and then it says enter your choice. It's pretty clear how to do this. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, all of Python's interface is an invisible grid. And the interesting thing about the letters that we see on the screen when we print something out is that each character in Python in that command line takes up the same amount of space. We're not always used to that, right? Because a W is really wide and a lowercase I is really narrow. We don't think of that. And in fact, fonts like Times New Roman or Arial or a lot of those, it's actually true that the W takes up a lot of space and the lowercase I just takes up a little bit of space. But in a terminal program or in a command line like this, we're using what are called monospace fonts, which means every character, no matter if it's a period or a W, uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter, takes up the same amount of space. And while that seems kind of dumb at some level, it's also very useful because it allows us to line things up on the page very easily. And that was the purpose of it originally. So when we have Python printing something out, if I print out hello world, this is sort of what Python sees. When it prints a string, it says that string has a certain number of characters and it takes up that amount of space, and that's what it looks like through Python's eyes. Now, in Python, the default line width is 80 spaces across. Your mileage will vary, and it depends on your display size and all kinds of things. That 80 characters across is actually based on what the earliest monitors were capable of displaying. A monitor, a computer screen, was capable of displaying 80 characters across. And it was that way for a long, long time, even well after the invention of Python. But of course, now we're dealing with fonts and font sizes. Now on my screen here, if I make my window fully enlarged there, then I've figured out that I can show 68 characters across. You can decide what you want to do. If you want to figure that out or if you just want to standardize it, whatever. 80 is probably going to show up as 2/3 of your screen at a small font size. But it's easy to figure it out. So you can figure out what you want the screen width to be. And of course, the number of rows vertically that it shows depends on how much of the window you have showing and that sort of thing. But using characters, right? You've probably seen this kind of thing. It's called ASCII art. And if, in fact, you search for ASCII art in virtually any type of image that you want, you can get an image. There are even websites where you can upload a photograph and it will do its best to transform it into ASCII art for you. So you can do a lot of stuff with just characters. So you can get kind of creative if you want to. Later in the class, we'll be doing, not too much later, pretty soon in the class, we'll be doing a rock, paper, scissors game. And One student actually, she actually figured out how to make rock, paper, scissors like hands out of ASCII art so that when the computer was doing rock, paper, or scissors, it would show rock, paper, or scissors. You don't have to do that, but creativity is always a way to make things more fun. So in Python, if I'm going to do like a menu or something like that, all it takes really is just for me to envision how that would be structured in a grid. And I already showed you a little bit of this, but if I wanted to print 80 number signs across, I can do the string number sign times 80. That's the only time you can do math with a string, and it'll print 80 of that. If I print the next line here, a number sign times 9, comma, Bill's calculator, dot center in 60, comma, number sign times 9, right? How many spaces is that across that it's equaling right now? 78, but also don't forget the commas each insert one space. So that gets me to 80. Now, do I have to use commas there? No, I don't. I could use plus signs and just do 10 and 10, and it would be fine too. And then this one prints 2 number signs, and then the comma is a space, and then it prints 74 spaces, and then it prints 2 number signs. So that gives me that border. So there's a lot of really easy ways to do this. I'm going to go 68 because that's my screen width. So if I print that, a little bit short there, we'll just call it 70. So there's my 70 number signs. But if I print 2 of those plus welcome to my program, and then I center it in a line of, we want 2 plus 2, so it's 66, and then plus 2 more on that side. Then I can get things to line up. And it's pretty simple math. I mean, I'm not doing calculus here, but you can do these. And once you have these sort of created for the first time, then you can just sort of copy and paste them, and you can get your very, very old school, we call it vintage looking user interface. You can put that on your resume now that you specialize in vintage user interfaces. Expertise right here, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do. I'm going to leave it to you to get creative. But you can also, by the way, if you wanted to do like a pattern where it repeats those 2 characters, like you can do that too. So, you can do some stuff. And it's, no matter what, it still looks vintage, but it kind of makes it a little bit more fun to interact with your program. And so you want to do that.